Oh my God, it is the free agency special episode of Hotline League, and it's so big, the news is so wild that it squeezed out our third guest so that Mark and I could just talk exclusively about it. His microphone exploded, so he doesn't. We're going to get it fixed. My constant co-host Mark Zimmerman is here. How's it going, Mark?
It's going good. I'm feeling great. You saw me earlier today on Travis's stream. This is my second time appearing.
Yeah, we're coming up on 7 hours of live streaming on the Travis Gafford channel. So by the end of this, we'll be, I think, over 9. I don't know. Anyway, it is obviously, as I said, the free agency day. So we are about 3 hours out from free agency opening. There's already been some official announcements from teams. We were going to have a guest on the show, and here's my little whine about this. A player had said they were down to come on the show, and then their team killed it. So this is my hope that in the future we get a place where, much like in traditional sports, players are not they're able to do the media opportunities that they would like to do. They are not beholden to their team. Anyway,
I'll keep saying who it wasn't in chat, and eventually you'll get it right. It wasn't Fudge, and it wasn't Nisqy.
Anyway, let's give a big shout out to Alienware. Well, stop. Let me give a big shout out to Alienware and Game Fuel, and we will get into the show. Thank you to everybody who's subbing and everything. It's been fun. So, okay. First off, Mark, is there anything that came out today that you were surprised by?
So, I mean, the C9 thing was a big surprise. But that technically came out last night at like 10 p.m., you know?
Yes. And they keep teasing that something has changed in the past 24 hours, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, even if something changes from here, it'll still be a surprise. Other than that, there weren't too many surprises. I mentioned this before because people asked, when I streamed a little bit earlier in the weeks, people asked me about my thoughts on some of like the lower tier teams, and I was just saying that I hadn't been following all of them. I was mostly following like the big roster moves and stuff. So like, you know, finally seeing CLG, I was actually pleasantly surprised at how that entire roster ended up looking. Like I actually think that for a young roster of relatively unproven talent, that looks pretty good. I'm relatively happy about that. There's still some stuff up in the air, like we're talking about TSM and how many things could happen with them that's not fully resolved. I think the Rekkles shit just blows my mind.
The KCorp stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't normally talk about non-LCS stuff, but that's so wild.
We normally don't talk about LEC stuff, and we're not even talking about LEC stuff technically.
That's true.
Which is just like, what the fuck?
I think for me, so I don't, because I don't care as much about LEC and I don't have the connections there, like Bloop on the show, so that KDrill's in discussions to go to Vitality as their coach. Did you see the clip yet, Mark?
I don't think I saw the clip. Did he react to it?
KDrill was co-streaming the show. And so while he's co-streaming, and he had the bigger viewer base out of all the channels. So while he's co-streaming, this just gets said on his co-stream. And it is hilarious.
Just play the clip on your stream. I want to see it.
Okay.
The ultimate React Andy meta is that you show a clip of a streamer reacting to another stream.
I have to find, somebody linked it to me earlier. Somebody find the, no, wait, I know where it is. It was
on linked it here. It got struck by Nightbot. I'll just watch it.
No. I'll put it up right now. Yeah, you watch it, I guess, on your end, and I'll put it up over here. Okay. But it is actually so funny.
Head on. Pablo, what do you have for us?
Hello, gang. So we are talking about actually one of our co-streamers now.
Co-streamers?
So sources just told us that KDrill is considering moving to a coach position in Team Vitality after receiving a lot of offers during this offseason from both NA or EU. He's still considering staying as a caster for next year, but Team Vitality, it's indeed a possibility that it's going to be decided probably this week. He will be joined by Mephisto in the coaching staff for Vitality if he ends up there.
Okay, so KDrill went from jungler to caster/content creator to maybe coach. an incredible double pivot in the sort of space of a year. Hats off to you, Kadril.
So it's tough to.
This is not official. This is still.
This is just like in the moment, but it's tough because to show you the full thing because it's like because I was like kind of following along as I think your gate's picking up. I was kind of following along while this stuff was happening, and because my chat was reacting, so that I load up Kadril. Kadril like didn't know what to say. I think for several minutes, if I recall. He was just trying to figure out how to handle the situation, and he just didn't know what to say. And so eventually, he just is like, okay, somebody like translating what he was saying into my chat or whatever. Ari the Valkyrie was in the chat saying like, oh yeah, I talked to a lot of teams in the off season, and like some stuff was happening, and like. Nothing signed yet, everybody. And blah, blah. It was just so funny because I was a little surprised. Like I'm not trying to call it Kadril or whatever, but like I was in my mind from doing this. We're still getting mic pickup. In my mind from doing this stuff for a while, I have been surprised that anybody is surprised when something gets out. You know what I mean? Like in my mind, there almost are no secrets. If anything is a secret, it's crazy. So that's why I was so surprised that Kadril did not have some, like I'm surprised he just had no plan for what would happen if that came out while he was co-streaming.
I fucking hate. Sorry. It's funny that he just got so flustered by it, and I imagine it actually probably feels bad. I wonder like how far along he was in those negotiations compared to like what the LEC knew at that point. So,
you mean like maybe he had not talked to the broadcast team for next year?
Yeah, they might like that could be a reason that he's like. I don't think he would be that pissed if he was like seriously considering it and it came out a little bit early, versus like you're in the middle of active negotiations between multiple parties. So who knows? I mean, I totally speculating. No, I wasn't saying that about Kadril. I was saying that about something else. But maybe. But yeah, that was pretty funny.
That was the highlight of today for me.
Go into coaching, other than the salary's fatter than what he probably gets from. LSC.
I don't think the salary's fatter. Dude gets so many views and so the broadcast.
Stop doing content creation. I'm saying for specifically the LEC.
Oh yeah. So I'm sure he'd make more money coaching salary to salary. But I personally think, and you say he can't stop, he doesn't have to stop doing content creation. But I mean, if you're coaching full time, it's going to put a big damper on what you can do.
Yeah, but I mean, you could conceivably still like players stream after practice and stuff. Who knows? I mean, either way, Vitality seems like they have fuckloads of money. So if they want to tempt him over, they can. I mean, he's obviously very smart about the game, but I wonder what the interview process is like, and like if the players push for this or the management. It's a very interesting thing.
Yeah. Is this like a Perks is like, give me Kadril or give me death, or is it the Vitality guys being like, we are about to become the most relevant fucking org, and the
caster, we got the best mid laner, like just like we got the best top laner, like
yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Sorry, by the way, to all the podcast listeners or audio listeners. I know you guys just heard the report and couldn't see his wordless reactions, but he just was like head in hands and then just sat there and then eventually got up out of the camera. It was a pretty great reaction. Highlight of my day for sure. I mean, it's the type of thing where I'm sure right now it feels bad for Kadril, and maybe he's even getting some messages from people who weren't in the loop or something like you said, but I think 6 months from now he'll hopefully find it very funny. All right.
He's tweeted since then some memes and stuff.
Yeah,
so I assume it's not too bad.
He's in on the he's joining the meme train, I think. Okay. So where are we? What else? So one of the things that they said on the Dot show was MikyX potentially in the running for TSM, because I guess the buyout is lowering, and so that might be a thing. If for anybody who wants to see this, I this morning did what I did last year, which was I put out my final TGI projections for all the different. I had for every single role for the LCS teams, and then also put my confidence level on each of them almost all of them are green. And I do think some of them will change because apparently there's a lot of chaos in the off season right now, but in a different way than normal. Because normally what it is like it's chaotic because everyone's doing these big signings in the beginning and there's a huge competition for it. This year you have the opposite end of the spectrum where nobody wants to pay anybody $1 million for a player. There might have been, I'm sure that like Steve and maybe even EG are coughing up some big bucks, but like the buyouts are crashing on these other, like the whole economy is just fucked in the offseason this year. So
term. Wait, we need to make a term for this. Everyone's talking about this offseason being kind of like the bubble popping. And then you have, the Great Recession, the Great Depression. Like, what do we call this?
I don't know.
I haven't heard anyone try and coin this offseason. You want to just steal whatever?
I mean, it depends. Next, if we have terrible teams next year, it's definitely the Great Depression, because that's how everyone will be feeling.
No, you need to strike while the iron's hot. We need a term for the offseason right now.
God, I don't know. I don't know.
Market correction, the Great Buster, the Great Bubble, reclaiming the regression.
So, Mark, I will link you my roster. Let me make sure I don't have anything else.
Oh, fuck. What's that movie I like? The Big Short?
The Big Short?
This isn't really a short.
How can I short some of these? I want to short all of G2's buyouts. Okay. I am going. I'm gonna link you my sheet. Everybody else can just go look at my video or the tweets or anything I put out, and I'm sure there's some master doc somewhere where people can do this. But for you, Mark, let's take a look at this really quickly so that we're referencing the same thing. But one of the questions I have for you, I put it in our group chat or our chat on Skype. One of the questions I have for you that we can discuss is, assuming all these teams come in, and I know that there's some questions remaining around TSM and maybe even around C9, though I personally hope not. It feels to me, at first I wanted to say LCS got weaker, because there's just, when you hear things like Jensen sitting on the sidelines, that feels bad. And there's a lot of people who are like, wow, why are we importing, Blue or Pride Stalker, or like, there are the unpopular imports, which I think you get every year, because people only are excited to hear about Chovy and Faker joining the league. But like I saw somebody on Reddit and they just sort of did like a team by team rundown, and they're like, I think most teams either side graded or upgraded.
I saw that guy's post. I'm not sure I agreed with it.
I mean, so I don't. Okay, what do you think of? Let's just go with the big news, right? And let's say the C9 roster that I threw out there last night does actually stabilize, and C9 is just trolling with all their like last minute, haha, it might change. Summit, Blabber, Fudge, Sven, Isles. Weaker, stronger, side grade.
My initial reaction would be downgrade. I think Summit is potentially an upgrade over Fudge, and we'll talk about some of the potential issues with language, which I heard LS kind of tweeting about already, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But I think Isles for Vulcan is most likely a straight downgrade. Yeah. I think Fudge, even if he gets to become quite good, I would still hesitate to say that he reached his perks level.
What about 2021 perks level?
Yeah, even 2021 perks level. I mean, like, during the regular season, don't get me wrong, Perks made some big oopsies. Fudge will have games that look better, but I think, like, what Perks does well was when push comes to stuff, he usually does well. And, like, at Worlds, he had some big games when they needed him. Even in those games where he was fucking up constantly, he was also still making plays sometimes, like that final Rogue match, Like, I just think even if Summit is an individual upgrade, it's probably still a downgrade for me in two positions.
Yeah.
So that's why I lean towards downgrade. Though this is one of those like highly volatile ones where like you talk about the ceiling and the floor, they're miles apart.
Yeah. Okay, so let me throw this out. I mean, I think we talked about this a little bit when you made an appearance on the stream earlier, but like neither of us knows enough about Fate to maybe say much. And again, he is like a 10% confidence level. for TSM right now for me in the mid lane position. Like, I don't think anybody else is really throwing out names for.
I wasn't done with Cloud. How much do you want me to talk about these teams? Because the language barrier is something I actually do think is.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry, I thought we were wrapped on it.
No. Well, that's why I was like, do we want to say this so much for calls, or do you want to be a little bit more two of us today than takes?
No, we can go for like another. I don't know. Let's just try to go through these for 10 minutes and then we can do some calls.
Okay, so then I won't go longer.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out how much you want me to say.
No, it's fair. It's fair.
So for TSM, I said this when we were talking about it. Like, I didn't watch Fate particularly closely because he wasn't on my Worlds prep, and like I only watch LCK for like shits and giggles when I'm bored or like it's late night and it comes on. I'll say people have said good things about him. That's great. I hope it works well. If they go Life, I'm a big Life fan. I like, Ruler and Life and how good they were for a long period of time and stuff. I think he can be a really good laning one, but he's basically the opposite in a lot of ways to Ignar. Life, at least like historically, was not super close to Ignar's playstyle. So like those two names are very different in terms of what you want to do.
Well, we should throw in MikyX now because that's what they were talking about on the stream.
MikyX as well is closer to Ignar in terms of play style, like more about getting out of lane and influencing the map and stuff. So I don't know. This is one for me where I would say maybe a side grade. Tacticals, he makes some big mistakes, but probably a bit of an upgrade over Lost. Fate over PoE is a close one, depending on what your opinion of PoE is, probably. I know people are hot on Fate and Korean import and all that kind of stuff, but I think PoE is actually really good. And he, the thing that you have to realize is that, like, and this is going to be true for every import I talk about here, is that coming from a Korean ecosystem to a North American ecosystem is they will take a step back almost unanimously. Like, how many imports have you seen do well in their respective home region and then come to North America and be slightly worse?
Twitch chat.
Great.
Wait,
JJ,
pausing for Twitch chat.
one of the biggest ones. You guys are giving me a handful. Lust Boy, okay, he was great. He wasn't like he was pretty good. He wasn't a world class. Impact, I agree. Impact's one of them.
Mark is reading
takes,
Twitch chat right now for the podcast.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm reacting to Twitch chat. A lot of them takes pretty big steps back. Someday was potentially a top 3 top laner in the world when he left Korea to come to North America. Do you think after his first year in North America, anyone would make a fucking case that he was a top 3 top laner in the world still in North America? That's actually one of my best examples of why you'd be wrong about this. Someday, he's great. Don't get me wrong. I don't want this to be taken as shade at Someday. But he didn't like elevate the team that he joined North America, Dignitas, even close to the finals. So, like, I don't understand. Like, if you think Summit will be Someday 2.0, that's actually not a great case. Yeah, some come over and some do well. Like, GBM was actually someone who didn't, I don't think, transition very well at all. Phoenix beat his ass a lot of time in lane. I love Phoenix. He's one of my, I worked with him. But, like, yeah, if you were hyped about GBM, you saw what he did in North America, you would not be excited.
All right. Should we move on?
So my point is, how well people transition from LCK to NA really depends on a case-by-case basis of how well they're going to adapt to the North American ecosystem. Not just culture shock. You're talking about the ladder experience being bad. A lot of Korean players are grinders, and it fucking tilts the shit out of them to play in North America. A lot of them get homesick. A lot of them don't necessarily have players that they want to talk to. If you go Ignar, and you get Huni, Spica, Fate, Tactical, Ignar, and I don't know what their coaching staff's going to be, but presumably no Koreans. And the only support system you have is potentially Huni. Is Fate the kind of person? I don't know Fate very well. I have to ask people. But, like, is Fate someone who's going to be okay in this environment? How's his English? Like, these kinds of things are I think, relevant questions to ask. And I don't think you just go top 3 in LCK, number 1 in NA, you just fucking laser print their ass in there, like, it doesn't work like that.
You don't just fucking laser print their ass in there.
Yeah,
MarkZ on offseason analysis. Okay.
Just throwing some words out, see what takes.
Team
sticks.
Liquid, Whippo, Santorin, Bjergsen, Hansama, Core JJ.
I hope you make the same argument for TL. Who is TL importing other than Whippo? And I guess Hansama too.
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially. Of course. I think Whippo is a big question mark. Do people not think he's a big question mark? I think he's returning to top lane after a bit of time away. I think he should be good, the same way I'm predicting Summit to be good. I didn't say Summit was going to be bad, and I didn't say Fate was going to be bad. But I'm just saying that PoE, who has been top 3 in North America for multiple years in a row, I don't just instantly pencil Fate in because he's coming from Korea. That was my only stance here. And it's the same thing, with Whippo. Like, I don't know if he's going to be the best top in North America. People say he is. But he looked really good in the jungle. He's been really good in top lane. He can go back top lane, hopefully. And I think Team Liquid looks really good. I'm hot on Team Liquid.
Do you think that they are, based off what we're seeing so far, the best team next year? Or likely to be?
So.
Like, if you had to bet money down right now. I obviously, like...
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Gun to my head, yes.
Yeah.
Right
so
now,
here's
what TSM ends up being.
Here's something that's fun. So they were saying, and I had heard rumors of this, Gyoto to coach TL. And I think you and I might have even talked about this off air at one point in time. But, like, I find that fucking hilarious. Because I feel like Whippo, Bjergsen, and Core are just going to have really big opinions on the way the game should be played. Some of those are going to be more outspoken than others. And I feel like Gyoto is also a really big personality. And so my take is, in order for Gyoto to successfully coach this team, he has to, like, out-ego everybody else and just, like, dominate the room. I feel like that is a room where there will be a lot of yelling, and we won't see it because they don't stick that stuff on the YouTube channels anymore. But I'm very curious to see what that team is like for next year.
That's how it has to go. Like, what about Grabs? Do you think he out-egoed Perks?
No, but Grabs and Gyoto are so different as coaches.
Probably, but my
And
point is
people.
that sure, but I don't think I mean, both of them, when they came over here, had equally fun time shitting on North America, and they have very strong opinions if you talk to them outside the scene. Right?
But we know that Grabs was a
team.
facilitator for G2. I've never heard Gyoto's the guy that's like, okay, guys, let's all sit in a circle and, like, figure out our opinions and, like, figure that stuff out, right? Like,
saying this is a team that might just need facilitating. Maybe Gyoto can do that. I don't think he's been on, like, Uber Super Team before. I mean, OG was one of Origin rosters was supposed to be that, I think. Who knows? Maybe it crashed and burns, but I don't think he needs to wrangle every personality.
So sorry. I am saying he needs to because of the type of person he is. I'm not saying this team must have a coach who will I think a Grabs could potentially work. Like, if Grabs was coming in here, I would say, like, oh, he can be the facilitator. He's going to have to wrestle all these personalities the way he did on G2. Admittedly, I've never been behind the scenes with Gyoto, but I don't think of him as a facilitator. I think of him as, like, a strong opinion guy who, I'm not saying he's not going to listen to the players or anything like that, but I do feel like there could be moments where he's like, him and Whippo are just, like, yelling at each other or something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very curious. Because I also don't think that TSM has historically had a coach who comes in and, like, dominates that room.
Bjergsen has.
What?
Bjergsen's been the coach of TSM
That's
for
what
years,
that is my point exactly. Is that, like,
is he
TL
the
already
coach
has a
again
coach.
here?
It's
Do
Bjergsen.
you really think, like, if anyone disagrees with Bjerg, Steve's not going to sack their ass?
And that is my point. You know what I mean? So that is why the Gyoto move, I am excited for it, but I think it is so interesting because I would never look at this lineup with the people that are on it and be like, oh yeah, he's the guy to bring in here. I'm not saying he's not going to do a good job, but I feel like it's a very interesting situation.
I feel like, every team has a level of chemistry that you don't know about. And this, to me, does not scream particularly worse than some of the others. I don't know, you're like, Gyoto has to be the big man in the room. I don't know if that's true, dude. I've never worked with Gyoto. I don't fucking know.
Are we incapable of assuming any aspect of how Gyotto is as a coach based off of how we've seen him, for instance, interact with Revenge on this show?
Just he's slapping him around for like. You don't think some coaches are adaptable?
Well,
I don't know.
either
Listen,
way.
here's the thing. I don't fucking know this. This doesn't scream to me like you have 5 Dardocs or something. All right.
No,
That's
I'm
all
not saying there's 5 Dardocs here, Mark. But it's
I-
disingenuous to act like this is like a young team of rookies who are like have no opinion on the game or anything like that.
Oh my god! I'm just saying that like it's a group of veterans coming
In the
together.
same way, I'm not saying there's 5
halfies.
Dardocs. You are not saying that there's 5 rookies. I'm just like
I know. I'm saying like I would be concerned about teams where like players have literally blown up teams around them. But this like none of these players have really done that unless you want to say Bwipo this last year a little bit maybe and like some of the self-made stuff, right?
Okay.
Like Bwipo's the only player with any history of that thing you could argue a little bit. Bjergsen, yeah, he has a really strong head about how he wants to play the game. Santorin and Bjergsen have actually played together. I don't know Hans Sama personally, but is there rumors about how?
no, I think Hansama is the quiet, nice guy on this.
Yeah.
Santorin.
So like you have multiple quiet, nice guys. It's not like five players with strong opinions on the game.
I didn't say there were, Mark.
I know, but you're saying there's like these issues. I'm saying no. I can see the.
I am not
well.
predicting Team Liquid to implode. I am just saying I think.
I know what you're saying. You're saying there's a chance that things don't go well because there's a lot of big personalities. I'm saying I don't think there's as many big personalities as you think.
Okay.
I think.
Let's move on to
Hansama
EG.
will-
Impact inspired JoJo, Danny, Vulcan.
Looks fun. Let's have a good time.
Upgrade, do you think?
This one's hard to say. I'd say this is a side grade for now.
Side grade?
Yeah,
I mean, I think
because-
a lot of questions around JoJo. I think that's going to be like the big thing for this one.
Right, because Jizuke was a bit of a, hit or miss, and when he hit, it was really good, and I think they won a lot of games with him. JoJo's really aggressive. I don't think he'll be quite the same player that Jizuke was, who ended up getting first All-Pro. It's big shoes to fill in that regard. Inspired, probably a little bit better than Sven right now. Vulcan, I personally probably have a little bit of a preference towards over Ignar, but you can't deny that Ignar made a lot of big plays, so it's hard to say given that they're investing in JoJo and bringing in 2 other new players, but at least in terms of raw talent, it's not like a clear step down.
100T confirmed. I think they're the only team that's confirmed their roster, which is obviously pretty easy because all they're doing is expanding to have Tenacity as a 6-man. So,
Yeah.
Side grade, right?
Upgrade, baby. Tenacity over someday.
Okay. IMT, Revenge, Xerxes, PoE, Wild Turtle, probably Destiny. This is the
Peter Dunn
projected.
defending Sven and chat.
This is the
Love it.
projected. Is Revenge, Xerxes, PoE, Wild Turtle, Destiny. Upgrade.
Yeah, upgrade for sure. No offense to Insanity and Raze and stuff, but and Turtle, it's hard to judge because that CLG was just such a disaster,
Yeah.
But I think PoE is really good, and he'll be a really stable base in the mid lane. I feel like he can elevate. There's some players who I don't have confidence in to elevate a team even if they are really good. PoE is the exact opposite of that. I feel like he's so stable in the mid lane that unless like you literally put him in a trash can with his teammates, they'll still be okay. Yeah, Optic was a bit of a trash can. He still managed to almost get them into playoffs, kicking and screaming. He had a better influence on that team than Crown did. I think he went to CLG immediately afterwards and helped get them to third. So I'm a big PoE fan, and so I think Xerxes and Revenge are decent. Turtle's a good backup carry. They've played together before on FlyQuest as well, where again PoE was able to help elevate that team. I think this is a decent lineup. I feel like this is a good like middle.
Like
mid-tier
could
team.
steal some, could sneak into top 5 at points in time.
Right, like probably top 6 if the other teams all hit their peak, but they probably won't. And I don't think that this is a team that's going to explode. Do you know who their coach is projected to be if Kyoto leaves?
All right, I haven't said this and I haven't heard it anywhere, but it's rumored to be Zix.
Okay, cool.
Dig. This is the wild one. Anatron, Fake God, River from PSG, Blue from SK Neo, and then support is undecided. I mean, I threw Biofrost in here because I've heard that they were having some conversations with him, but I don't know if that's going to go anywhere. Who knows?
Get that bag, River, but I don't know what he's going to do here.
I mean, so upgrade or downgrade?
I think it's a downgrade. Even if they put out the same performance as last year, it's still a downgrade. Isn't that kind of fucked? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because even if they put out the same performance, they will have paid more money and used more import slots instead of developing talent for the most part.
I don't know if they will have paid more money.
You think Afro and Dardoch were more expensive than Blue and River?
I think Afro definitely was. Afro's been getting paid well for a while, I think.
Still, he wasn't quite in the million plus. Maybe you're right. Because I assume Blue wasn't actually that expensive.
I mean, theoretically, I think you can pay... Like, I'm not saying they are doing this, but I would not be surprised if there's LCS minimum on several of these players.
I'll still say, even if this is a cheaper roster than that previous one, the other point I made still stands true. Whereas if they just get, like, 5th, 6th, and Buster out of playoffs, I think a lot of people will kind of be upset, actually.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what they can prove. I mean, if this is like an Anatron roster... If this is like an Inatron roster and he's coming in and building something like incredible, see the secret Dignitas roster that takes the LCS by storm, how exciting would that be?
You're trying so hard. You can say it.
As I say, there's no D and F tier teams in the LCS, Mark. As we said during my
nothing
fun
about
power
this team
ranking
that makes me excited, probably, other than River, because I do like River a lot from PSG. And Fake God. You like Fake God and Neo. I don't want to make it sound
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't like Neo?
I like them fine enough. But, like, as a collective, this is giving me CLG last year vibes. Where you looked at the lineup and you're like, but why?
Well, the only thing that's nice about this lineup is, like, last year I think CLG was in the middle of the pack for spending. Because they were bringing in, like, Finn and Brox or whatever. And so, like, there are two ways to look at this team, right? It's like this is potentially better for Dig than last year if you're just thinking about the money. They can put up they can do the whole like win as many games
power that they got from last year.
Yeah, that's true. We'll see. FlyQuest upgrade downgrade Kumo, Jose Diodo, Takuli, Johnson, Afterman. I think I'm the only one that's mentioned Kumo, but I think the other four have all been said.
So Takuli, I don't know. This is kind of one of the three between Fate, Takuli, and who's the other one I was saying I hadn't watched a lot of? There's one other player. Yeah, Blue. Sorry. Those are the three players that we've talked about so far that I haven't watched. Like
presumably haven't watched. Oh, that we've talked so far. Sorry, continue.
Was there someone else you're gonna say?
Pride Stalker, who we haven't.
No, I actually have a little bit more from because I feel like I heard good things about him in LEC a while ago, and there was a period of time I thought where he was potentially going to come over. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking of someone else, but Pride Stalker is a name that's been around for a minute. Anyways, for FlyQuest, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have strong thoughts about them.
Side grade? I'll go side grade if you don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, last year was kind of they just started like throwing shit at the wall, and this kind of feels like they did it again.
Golden Guardians, Licorice, Pride Stalker, Olive, Lost, Ole. I'm willing to say upgrade over last year. I mean, people
especially for spring last year.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
And that's what I think. So on that post where people are saying is the LCS weaker or stronger than last year, I do think you have to look at spring, and you can't go end of summer to beginning of spring as a comparison point, because one is like teams after they figured out which parts aren't working, like 100 Thieves is like, okay, we need to make a change in mid lane. Let's grab Abadage. But I think if you compared 100 Thieves in spring, it's like, wow, that's obviously a lot better. And so that's kind of how I look at some of this stuff is like Golden Guardians in spring. Yeah, this is better. So it doesn't quite have too much to get hyped about in terms of like development, but I do want to see what Olive can do with more individual talent around him, because I think, you know, Pride Soccer is going to be better. Lost versus Stixay, probably an upgrade. It's hard to tell though, because they were in two really different situations. And Ole coming back is interesting. I hope it works out. I really hope it does. But that's actually a big question mark for me.
There's been volatility there before.
Yeah.
Fifth Laren, who's the VP of esports at Dig. I know that's what Mark is reading right now, so I'll read it for everybody else. You say that, Mark, but it took the desk 3 months to remember who our coach was even. We're trying something new. I'm excited for all the rosters heading in next year. I think a big problem is that it's very hard to please the league fans, and they have very strong opinions. But even if people say that 2022 might look weaker, long-term might be a whole different story. Rome
You're
wasn't
saying the
built in a
desk didn't know Diggs coach last year?
I mean, that is what Fifth is mentioning. At one point,
I knew who your coach was because he DM'd me to complain about the fact that you didn't say who your coach was. I memed you for not announcing your coaching staff correctly. I knew who it was because your coach reached out to me.
I'll let you guys figure that out offline. And then our final lineup is CLG, Jenkins, Contracts, Palafox, Luger, Poom. Side grade?
Upgrade. So this is, I will say, a speculative upgrade on my end.
Because their spring lineup was, I think, Finn, Broxa, Pobelter, Turtle, Smoothie. Was that?
And then they benched Pobelter and went RJS before
spring
started. If I remember correctly.
Yes. So I mean, I think it's very speculative, because going into last year, I think people. Well, I remember we were kind of like, this is like kind of an interesting roster, but kind of like it was a middle of the pack roster.
People saying it's an obvious upgrade. I
don't think it's obvious from a spring I don't know.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. Is from last year, after watching them get ninth, like, yeah, it's a lot easier to be excited about this team. But I think, and there's other like narrative points that are much happier. If you showed me this roster for CLG and CLG's roster from last year, I'm still more excited for this roster, because last year's roster was like a bunch of veterans with a very low ceiling. That's what we all said, and then it was even worse than that.
Yeah.
But here, it's a bunch of people who I'm excited to see more of. I can't wait to see Luger in the LCS. Contracts return. Jenkins actually getting a starting spot and hopefully having some confidence behind him where, you know, it doesn't feel like he has this looming thing over his shoulder with all the drama that was going on. And Palafox, like I said, he's probably the biggest question mark for me on the team. But overall, I'm still like excited to see him continue to get chances. I don't think like he's bad or anything. So that's why for me this is a big upgrade. I think it will do better than last year's lineup. I actually think they could be good. But also, even if they are like 7th, 8th, you know, in that category,
this is kind of like it's like you are better off even if you get the same result, you are in a better position than you were last year getting that result. Yes. Yeah. I agree with that.
You've gotten one of the best junglers from Academy who was starting a lot of games by the end. Luger, who's generally considered the best AD carry in Academy. Jenkins, who is amongst the best tops in Academy and actually played quite well with his limited time in the LCS. You know, so and Palafox was decent in the LCS. I'm very excited.
You didn't mention Poom. You didn't mention Poom, Mark. Is this another Poo gang situation? Is that what's happening here?
Yeah. No. I just mean like I often just like lump him in with Luger because he was part of that bot lane.
Yeah. I'm sure you do. All right, this poor man has to live out the damage you've done.
He obviously played well to play around Luger, and I think that they play more lane dominant than roam heavy. That's why it's easier. Like if Luger was a weak side carry, I'd feel much more inclined to be like, gotta talk about this. But yeah, they're both good together.
Yeah. Okay, so that is the projected rosters that we have. Again, there's some stuff that could change there, but Mark and I have just done the rundown. So overall, LCS upgrade, downgrade, side grade year over year. Now that we've gone team by team,
I say
I say,
this is fun.
here's what I say. I think our average has gone up.
Yeah,
I think there will be
sorry, we're gonna
more
say the same
parity in the
thing.
league, but our high end has gone down. Our peak has gone down.
Yeah, it's hard to be as excited, I think, than you were last year. But I also don't think it's like, I think it's an upgrade for for like the majority of the league in some ways. I don't know, actually. Maybe I'm
Here's
just
what
trying to
I
be
will say.
optimistic.
Even separating the quality of the league, holy shit, does the broadcast have their work cut out and like getting people to be hyped for next year. They could either go all in on Bjergsen, or they really have to do a lot of work to come in and be like, yeah, no Jensen, but here's why JoJo is somebody you should be paying to. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be excited for JoJo, but like fans need to be told why they should be excited for JoJo, because like I don't think before the offseason the vast majority of LCS fans knew who JoJo was. Quite frankly, I'm guessing today they still don't, because you know the people that are following this stuff are the more hardcore.
It's funny because like I feel like our like viewer base is so biased to being in the know, and then I go on Reddit and people are like, "Who's EG replacing Jizuke with?"
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then someone's like JoJo, and they're like, "Who the fuck is that?"
Yes. Whereas we've been talking about the JoJo versus Jensen stuff for a couple weeks, or you know, EG starting JoJo. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Is like it is tough, I think, because I mean we talked about it before. We don't need to go super down this road again, but like you put a bunch of investment in telling people to be excited about Perks joining the LCS, then he leaves the next year, and you're like, Bjergsen's back, and JoJo is here. You and I talked about this before too, but I definitely feel like mid lane is depending on what we see from TSM. Like I think mid lane is in a really weird position this year, or this coming year in LCS.
Yeah. I think what's weird about this offseason too is from a narrative level, the storylines, like the big, like if you were to sum up this offseason in a couple like main storylines, it wouldn't even be about individual players. Like last year would have been the big three joining NA, Perks, Alfari, Sword Art. This year's is what the fuck happened with contracts?
Yeah,
You know, like that's the
not the
storyline.
CLG player.
Not the jungler contracts, but just
He
like,
ruined so much conversation in the league, right?
I just glaze right over it and
Yeah,
assume
yeah,
people
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like understand what I'm talking about. But
Yes,
I think
but
it
like-
makes it harder to talk about this offseason because the big storyline is not which player went where, but like what the hell just happened and why teams are.
Yeah, how did we
are
get here? It's
seamless.
true. Like,
Seamless.
so I did a stream where I recorded and I haven't released it yet. I need to do it, like a video on the economy of off season and like the three major trends that I saw this year that explain a lot of this stuff. You know, because people come in and they're like, "How are we in a world where like we don't see Jizuke and Jensen starting on teams this year, given how last summer went?" And it's a great question. In fact, for the Jizuke one, I don't have much of an answer. That one actually, like, he's a free agent. Like, people could pick him up. But maybe he just doesn't want to play for one of these bottom tier teams or something. I don't know. But it is just, like, it is fascinating, the amount of players that are going to be sitting on the sidelines, presumably. And a little sad, quite frankly. Like, we're going to have to, I've already asked Tim for us to redo the video we did last year about the turnover rate of players and like the churn in the LCS, because this year I feel like might be higher than any other year. Like in last year was higher than every other year. So it's actually, I don't know. It is crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah.
People in the chat saying rookies are more interesting. Maybe to you, but you have to get fans to care about this stuff, and I feel like it's going to be tough whenever they tune in and like they haven't been paying attention to off season, and their favorite team now has none of the players that they had on it last year. And they're like, I've been a CLG fan forever, and none of these 5 players are myself here.
CLG fans are not included in this. What's sexier to you? CLG's lineup, or if Bjerg's or Doublelift joined Jensen and they did a revenge tour against TL and TSM? Like, what's
Yeah.
an easier sell to the average fan
Yeah.
to be excited about?
Who wouldn't want Doublelift? Okay, anyway. Yeah, there's a ton of... Here's the thing. You're going to have, in our chat, you're going to have a bunch of people that go, wait, where are my stupid glasses? I have some stupid glasses around for
Why are
moments
people
like
in
this.
chat asking about your glasses?
What? No, I'm asking. Or I was trying to find the goofy glass. Oh, here we go.
I know.
There's a bunch of people in the chat that are going to be like, excuse me, it is way more interesting to see these players not double lift and Jensen. Double lift is washed and Jensen blah blah blah. You know, had a bad season last year, and it's like, guys, you are not the average league viewer. Like, people at LCS know double lift, they know Jensen, they don't know these other players. It is fine for us to replace them, but it just means that there's a ton of work that's being done to teach and excite and endear a new audience to a new generation of league players. And one, I think it's been tough. The LCS has not done the best job of it previously. And two, it's incredibly difficult because who knows if any of these players are going to be playing next, in 2023. Like, that's also part of the problem. Is like, we were all beating the fucking rookie drum last year, and then I don't feel like that panned out a ton. Like, Danny popped up, well, that was great, and like Spica continued to be good. Fudge, there's definitely some examples, but like for the most part, I don't know. We didn't do a great job, and a lot of them one shot. I guess that's always the way it's going to go. But
Something in Spawn in chat saying, "Imagine the commentators having to do their job. Mark hasn't watched a VOD in 5 years."
I think you watch VODs, Mark. I believe in you.
I watch a lot of VODs.
Yeah.
I watch.
Look at Spawn.
VODs.
Spawn stops being a caster, and he just sits on the sideline as a coach down and throws fucking eggs at people. Like, haha.
Spawn called my joke before I even said it. He said not Genshin VODs.
Not Genshin VODs. Yeah, that's true. I was trying to stream Genshin earlier, and Spawn put expletives in the chat. All right.
I was talking to Travis and I were hanging out this weekend because he had to escape his apartment for a couple hours for some reason, and he was like, "Let's watch some Genshin content while on your TV while we play Genshin." And I was like, "I've already watched everything that we want to watch because I watch at 2x speed and I just have something up 24/7, whether it be Genshin, League, physics videos, stuff about fantasy, or just
we don't
constantly 2x speeding shit."
We don't have as much time for personal anecdotes, even though I know they're the charm of the show. We never do this, but because we spent so much time just ranting about stuff at the first half of the show, it's time for a quick ad while Mark gets ready to take our callers. Callers, you know what to do. Actually, I guess because we have 4,000 people right now, they probably don't know what to do. Mark, you want to explain how it works?
No. There's enough of them already in there. If it's your first time here, then you should have fucking watched the other episodes when there weren't new people here.
Join the Discord. It's discord.gg/Travis. I'll put it in the chat. You can do !Discord if you need it. Join the subtopics or pleb topics channel, depending on if you're a sub or not. What we'd like is less of questions and more of takes. So, for instance, I think 100T is going to be the best team next year for whatever reason, or I think CLG is going to be the best team, or I really hope that the C9 roster isn't what it's been reported to be, or I think TSM should sign Faker. That type of stuff, please put it there. Whenever Mark reviews these, he'll move you into the waiting room. If you're in the subtopics channel, if you're a sub, you can put it there. It moves a little slower. I'm sure it's a busy night tonight. And then we will pull you in there, and you'll just wait, and then Mark will come get you and do an audio check and all that stuff. So that's how the show works if you want to call in. While Mark is doing that, I would like to talk about our sponsor tonight and every night, which is Alienware. And our first ad break. Alienware, there's an amazing Alienware computer you might see behind me. They have just released their Aurora R13 and R14s, which are now available over at alienware.com/Travis. And they also have, as always, I am sure, some wonderful Black Friday deals coming up. If you are looking for a great deal on a computer, monitor, accessories, go take a look at Alienware. Again, doing that through alienware.com/Travis is incredibly helpful. We love it whenever folks want to do that. In fact, if you go to that URL, let me just double check and make sure the banner is still there. Yes, there is. You can check out the new Alienware Aurora by clicking the link up at the top. That is very helpful when you do that because it helps Alienware know that this is a thing, and that it allows me to pay Mark $50K an episode, which is the number that he requires one Nisqy diff, I believe is the way that is described.
Is now a unit of measurement is Nisqy diff?
Yes. We didn't even talk about that.
I got a call for it. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. Uh, so anyway, check out Alienware. We love their support of the show. It is incredibly helpful whenever you guys help us out in order to get the help from them about the help. It's all help. So anyway, thank you so much to Alienware for their support of the show, and check them out whenever you are doing some holiday shopping. This I was gonna say off season. This holiday season. It's all the same, I guess. It is the off season. Anyway, Mark Zimmerman.
I'm thinking, Travis, there's a lot of takes, obviously, because there's a lot of viewers tonight. I'm thinking maybe we go a little bit faster through them. So callers, like, have your take ready to go, and
we will cut you off if you start reading your essay. We don't always do that, but tonight, if you
I think tonight, given that we start late because we had more to say at the beginning and all that, you know.
Don't rush through it, but like, please make it concise. We don't need the history of every player, which sometimes people tend to do. You
compare it to 2029.
You look at player A and just think about them, and you look at player B and think about them, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, Mark is off grabbing the first caller. There's a ton of subs that are coming in tonight, and first off, I really appreciate it. I'm going to try to get through as many of these as I can, but if not, I will say them after the stream. Thank you to Flick Nickum, a large Farva, for gifting us a tier 3 sub to Ovely May. Okay, our first caller is here, Zextrap. Zextrap, where are you calling from?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take was that the TSM MikyX deal is bad. And the main reason it's bad is because EU players coming to NA, like really good ones, seem to always just go back after staying here for 1 year. And that's not what TSM wanted. At least that's what I got from the Bjergsen leaving video. And I don't know. It's just kind of cringe. I'll keep it short since you said you wanted to keep it short.
No, it's a fair point. Who was the last player to stay? Are there EU players that showed up last year that are sticking? Oh, Abadage, although he came in halfway through. I guess closer to 2 years ago. There's a couple, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of boomeranging that happens.
I mean, but even with Abadage and Closer, they're not people who had success in their, like, Closer sort of did, but he's like coming from a minor league. Abadage was like middle of the pack in Schalke. Like people like Perks, Alfari, even like Fevin, they come into this league and they're expected to win everything, and they don't, and then they kind of get homesickness by the end, or something doesn't work out and they just leave. And you're basically just giving these EU teams like a big fat paycheck every time you do this, rather than developing good players for the long term, as TSM said they are gonna.
Yeah,
I think it's a good point. Like, Fabiven's a good call out. I know people are being like recency bias, but there are other examples. I think, Fabiven did try at first on Clutch. I think after a little bit, it seems like the NA environment wore him down a little bit. But like Ben as well, I think he tried while he was here. But like, he got released from CLG. Who knows how long he wanted to be there? But it is a bigger question that I think North American teams should be asking is like, this player, yes, you can sign them, but why are they coming here? Does Miky want to play on TSM for an extended period of time and they think he's the future? Or is this something to do while navigating contract jail and looking for a better opportunity in 2023? I don't know Miky very well. I don't know. He seems very nice. I have seen him at All-Star events and stuff. He doesn't strike me as the type. But I mean, we are in a situation where it does seem like the options are running out on the LEC side. Yeah, for sure. And so, like, I think it's a very fair question for people to have when building a team is like, what am I getting out of this player versus like someone like Ignar, who has been in North America for an extended period of time. And, you could say, well, if things work out well here, maybe we actually have our support for the next couple of years, which feels like a bigger question mark.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a really good point, and I also think it echoes back to what TSM was saying in their initial video, which it seems like they wanted to kind of build for like the long term. And I mean, I'm not saying MikyX is going to retire anytime soon, but you would have thought that they that's why when I see other names associated with TSM, it feels a little bit more in line with what they positioned their vision for this offseason looking like for them. Is like, who are the players that are going to be on TSM for a long time going forward, and And it's hard to imagine that, like, and then MikyX just became like a 4 or 5 year long TSM player, and like the next Bjergsen. Maybe that'll happen.
Age is kind of dead. You know, like TSM for a period of time was the de facto flagship team in the LCS. That if you wanted to be good, you went there, and like you made your name there, whatever. And people stayed for a long period of time. One, turnover in the entire LCS is higher, and two, TSM's not that team anymore. So like, there's a period of time where TSM fans could be excited because anyone who joined their team clearly wanted to join their team because it's TSM. Whereas like now they could just be seen as something to hitch your wagon to for a year. And Kelsey was making fun of me for saying he seems nice. I meant Mickey doesn't seem like the kind of player that gets a really
he doesn't seem like a snake
and comes to North America to snake some money or think he's going to dominate. That's what I meant when I said he seems nice. Like, I just can't see, like, Mickey doesn't strike me as the kind of guy to think he's going to come and just shit all over North America. He's a god, kind of like inflated ego thing.
Yeah.
Can I add on the personality thing? Like,
sure,
he also
really quickly.
seems like a quiet guy, or like someone who'll just kind of do as he's sort of told, and so therefore he might not be as like resistant to this move against the G2 like management. But then coming to a whole new country, as you saw with Perks, it's like hard to adjust, and it might be hard for him to adjust. So he'll like the result. He probably won't say anything in the beginning, and then later it'll be like, oh yeah, I really struggled a lot there. So that's the other side of being nice, is that you don't tend to share a lot of your struggles.
Well, I don't want to go. I know Mark mentioned like being nice, but I don't want to go too far down like the personality assessment for MikyX and how it goes. But yeah, I mean, it just continues. There's a lot of questions. I hope TSM is doing like a thorough interview about like, cool, do you want to come here? Is it because Carlos has realized this is a financial opportunity, or is it because you see yourself being a TSM member for 2 to 3 years? I don't know. So thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out, Zextrap?
Shout out some of the NA mid laners and other talents that are coming up. The pipelines, Counting Grounds is cool. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the call. We'll catch you next time. Okay.
I see some people putting predictions for like rankings of teams. I saw like a Golden Guardians is going to be top 3 or 4 in the LCS. That's a great take. Probably not for this week though, when we still don't know all the teams locked in. There's plenty of time left in the off season, so like I think we'll get more of the prediction takes later. I think it's more about reacting to the news and rosters. So just as a heads up for people still posting takes, I'm still polling people, but just a little note.
Okay, off mark goes. Some more subs. Thank you to Blue Frost, Sour Stezerman, Smoke Dog for 29 months, Shuval for 1 year, Backlog Bandit, Team Corgi Mid, Zypher, Selly, Maury. Thank you for the 88 Raiders. That's awesome. Mac to Ace for 2 years in a row. Guffy Fu, Chuy, Badger Yar, Sherikhan for 1.5 years, Fox Shroud, and Paperman. I think there's probably some other subs, but stuff is kind of acting wonky. And we've got EinWaltz here. EinWaltz, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
And you've called in before, yes?
No, I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller.
And long-time subber. I'm always recognizing your name. I always love it whenever somebody I know that has been around the channel for a very long time calls in for the first time. Okay, well, what do you want to talk about on the show?
I have the Nisqy take coming up, your payment for tonight.
Okay, here we go.
So my take is Nisqy being jobless is the biggest disappointment of the offseason because he is one of the most reliable players, both in-game and out-of-game available. And almost every team in LCS and LSC would benefit from having him as a mid laner.
Do you see that over Jensen?
I think so one of the positives I wanted to go through is that like both in-game and out-of-game seems to keep a really level head, and over Jensen possibly during his time on C9 it seemed like he was able to play at a high level while also being very selfless, playing whatever his team needs him to play, being able to learn whatever champ that his team needs him to play, and basically doing whatever his team needs him to do in order to win. And I think being that selfless while also being self-confident in his ability is a pretty rare thing to come across, and I think it's just a real tragedy that no team has bothered to try, well, to
Yeah,
successfully pick him up so far.
I want to be careful because I think there's a lot of people, like when there's a contract in place and there's a buyout, and especially this year as we've seen buyouts be such a huge factor in this stuff. I just want to put it out there that there's a lot of people that are like, I can't believe no team ever. This is not what I'm saying you did.
Yeah.
But like some people will believe, wow, this player doesn't have a team. It's because no team was interested in them. And like, there's a lot of factors. Sometimes the player doesn't want to play for them. Sometimes the team doesn't want to pay the buyout, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not always a situation where just like no one was interested in them.
Yeah,
But-
that's why I didn't want to say that
Yeah.
no team tried to pick him up, no team was successful in picking him up, which is kind of a shock after hearing the numbers that came out that their Fnatic was wanting 350K from G9 allegedly.
Well, what's interesting is I think so. It felt like to me there were a lot of C9 fans who were just so anti Nisqy, which was interesting and disappointing to me because like at one point in time, obviously he was in play for C9, and that stuff got out, and then so many of the fans were like, "No, we don't want him," and like I actually think Nisqy is great. Like you already know that he's got great synergy with Blabber. He like I am. And by the way, I know there's. I think Jack is getting a little tired of some of the stuff he's seeing right now because he and Tim Seven Houston were having an altercation, which I
Morpheus is fighting Neo.
yeah, it's very strange to see Tim. Anytime I see Tim get accidentally walk into drama, it's always very funny to me.
Yeah, I think that like that's why I didn't want to make it just about being disappointed that C9 didn't get him. I think that like pretty much any almost any LCS or LEC team would benefit from having him. Especially looking at the rosters that have come out, it's very shocking to me that a player with so much upside, a really good attitude, as far as we know, did not get picked up for the price that Fnatic was asking for him.
So Nisqy tweeted really quickly, just because he said this about an hour ago. Last minute buyout wasn't everything. The timing of negotiations is very important, but this offseason was a fucking joke, not going to lie. So that's what he tweeted.
I mean,
all right.
I can understand him being frustrated.
Mark, you want to dive in?
To the caller's point, like, I don't think Nisqy's an upgrade for every team. But I do think it's maybe the biggest tragedy of the offseason, which I'll agree with, just because I can't think of a time that Nisqy like went out there and didn't live up or exceed the expectations he had for him.
I mean, the only time I can think of is when he came to NA for Envy. And then
he was okay. I mean, I don't think people were expecting a world beater then. Then he went back to Splice and did well. Then he went to Cloud9, did even better. Then he went to Fnatic and did well again. And I think there's been times where he's struggled a bit, like internationally. I feel like he's gotten beaten up a few times. But overall, I totally agree that he is, I think, underrated because of the selfish nature that he has. And then out of game, I totally agree. This dude's one of the fucking funniest people in the scene. He's always joking around with the community. Where in a time where a lot of pros are like clamming up or aren't good about being personalities, like he does have that fun side to him. So I'm super sad.
I was actually pretty skeptical of him when he came back to NA and joined C9. Like I was pretty skeptical that joining like a top team like C9, he would be able to live up to those expectations. But to me, he actually kind of went above and beyond them, just because of how selfless he was and his attitude, but also his growth. And I think the fact that he's kind of continually like gone on an upward trend of growing throughout his career is actually another like really good sign and like another really good reason that teams should be looking to sign him, especially considering a lot of the people that have been signed so far.
We'll see. I mean, I think Nisqy, I am less worried for players like Nisqy and Jensen because one, their teams are now incredibly incentivized to move them. Like the idea of these guys sitting on the bench and just collecting fat paychecks, like these teams need to find a home for them now, or release them. In which case, they're just a free agent. Anybody can pick them up. And then again, like they might just get to take spring off. You know, like that's a situation that I think there's a good chance that we see a lot of these folks return whenever somebody's like, one, they might be like, all right, fine, my ego's set aside, I'll take less money or go to a team I wasn't thinking about. Two, other teams might be like, our mid laner isn't working out the way we wanted to, so like Nisqy or Jensen or whoever else, like, why don't you come in?
I think you'll see a lot of Abadage-esque moves from last year, where
I
there's like a
definitely think
hole
so.
that one of these players is going to fill, and the paycheck situation will be easier to deal with when, teams have realized the buyout, you're not going to get as much, and the player's like, well, I'm not going to play if I don't accept this, and like everything just drops down, becomes easier a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we see him come back. It'd be good. And even if he doesn't come to NA, it'd be good to see him come back again. And if not, hopefully we can at least enjoy some streams.
Thank you, EinWaltz, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
I'll shout out Game Fuel, Alienware. Shout out to you guys. Been watching you for a long time, so it's been fun to actually come on the strip runs. Thanks.
Thank you.
See you.
All right. ShareCon, thank you for the 18 months. Foxshroud, thank you for the 8. Paperman, I think I shouted you guys out earlier. Celiath, thank you for the Prime, and Socha TV. Thank you as well. Mark is grabbing the next caller right now. We are in the free agency window. If you guys are just joining, we've been covering that. We're going on we're almost at 8 hours for today's stream. So if I'm a little more wild than normal, you understand why, hopefully. Prophet is here. Prophet, where are you calling from?
Hey, calling in from New York, Manhattan.
New York. Welcome to the show. What do you want to talk about?
Thank you. Listen, I know every year there's a ton of churn, but I think the way teams are focusing on rookies, on potential, I think this is the end for a lot of like classic veteran league players that we didn't think were going to have their careers cut short so soon. So I'm thinking players like, I think people like Stixay, DeMonte, like Cody Sun, Zazel, even like LEC people like Broxa. I think this is it. And even below them, there's a ton of players that are not yet retired. I think this is just, they're done too. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, because that was like, those are the players that were just in the league when I started watching. I don't think they're going to be able to find a way back into the like top echelons of League of Legends.
Yeah, I think that is very true, and it's kind of sad. In some sense, it makes sense, because I think some of the players you named have been around for a while. They've kind of stopped putting out the results that they had a long time ago. I don't think people think that they're going to rise back up again, and their value is now more as like vets that can hang out in a development roster and help like coach other players and add some stability and all that stuff. And rather than just writing like 5 rookies, you can throw some of those folks in. But as we are churning so much, people in the chat spamming churn. That's the keyword for today.
Oh.
What was that, Mark? Are you okay? As we are churning in the LCS, I think it's unfortunately a side effect that like when you're throwing so many players out every year, you're going to catch a lot of these guys that have been around for a while. So yeah. I'm very curious to see how this stuff goes. I know I mentioned that.
I also feel like it's extra sad for the players because so much of the focus is on the superstars and some of the crazy shit happening around them. And they don't feel like they're getting like the normal send off that like, oh, this guy had been a veteran for a long time and has, kind of slipped through the cracks now, like Apollo and some of the other players throughout the years.
It's like Xmithy. Like Apollo, I think at least put it out there or did the interview with me. Xmithy just like disappeared last year. And then everyone's like, oh, did he retire? It's just like, who knows?
And that's how it feels right now for a lot of these like mid-listers, I guess you'd call them, because all the focus is on the Jensens and the double lifts and the Nisqys and some of the craziness that's going on with Rekkles in the LFL. And like, in the meantime, you miss all the names that aren't getting picked up again, which makes it feel weirder.
I know Zazel was in the news cycle, but even someone like Zazel, like he feels like a couple of years ago, he was like the next up and coming rookie. Like it's hard for me to ever imagine. I mean, obviously something can happen. I know he was in the news cycle recently, but like, what team realistically is going to take a shot on them? There's tons of players in every single role right now that aren't like we have Jizuki, like literally without a team. I just don't know what these players would do. Like, what would you even do at this point? You just like pull Niles and just retire quietly and call it a day? I mean,
so
I get,
Zextrap,
like-
I think we might still see in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As an example, because he was in the running at Dig, and then I just heard some like last minute stuff for Zextrap ended up changing that. So I don't know the details there, but no,
Yeah.
there's a lot of like people you mentioned, for instance, Stixay and Broxa. I think great examples of players where like I hope we get to see them again because I like them personally, and
Yeah.
I think they've got great personalities, and like they've had great moments in their career that like I love to see them get back to. But like I don't have the confidence that we will. Like it
Yeah.
could just be that like last year, unfortunately, they end on a very quiet note, and then we don't see them again. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think that is
say-
really sad. And on a day like today, as Mark pointed out, as there's so much like, whoa, this player's going here, this player's going here, and then even in a situation where it's like the players that are not going anywhere, it's like everybody is focused on Jensen and Jizuke, like a Broxa and a Stixay don't get as much attention, which is just the way the system is. But it's kind of sad.
The glimmer of hope I'll give is for players who can hopefully do something like contracts, and work their way back through the system until they get a shot. And it worked for Benji, who did it as well. And people can kind of work their way back up. It's a really long grind, and I understand why people don't want to do it. But for a player like Zextrap, I hope he can find an amateur team or an academy team, smurf on some kids, and then get a shot at it. Yeah, Ole just did it as well, like stuff like that.
Mark, do you think there's a world where, especially as we're building out these amateur and academy teams, it might make sense? I mean, maybe this is like a Kelsey question. Maybe she's gonna vomit in the chat when she hears me say this. But like I feel like there's a world where you kind of have like a player coach, and I don't mean that in the typical term, but like send Stixay, if he doesn't have a team right now, to like an amateur team on one of these organizations that want to develop talent, and just like he's a nice enough dude that I don't think he's gonna like rage at people. He probably has a ton he can teach those guys while playing on that team. He can help lead them to success. Like that. I wonder if there's a world where like some of these players, as the development team or development side is starting to build out more, have the opportunity not just to be like a contracts where it's like going back to academy to try to get their way back in, but actually going in with the intention of actually developing the talent that is there.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I wonder. I mean, the academy amateur ecosystem is one that I don't know if that's what a lot of them would want to do, because in amateurs, as I'm saying, you don't really have any income. So unless you're on one of, like you're saying, the org teams that have an amateur team.
Yeah.
So that feels like for a lot of people, they would rather just try coaching or just outright retire and move on. I can understand why teaching a group of younger players for little to no income would be not something they're excited about.
Yeah.
Do you guys think this shift is like a problem? Like it's just something that we're like, oh, we need more teams, or is it just a natural state of like NA taking more bets on rookies?
Well, I'll say this really quickly. Mark might say something, and then we need to move on. But I think the churn is really bad. I think the fact that we don't have the ability to develop these. Mark, is this going to be an issue for you every time?
It's going to be the new word, the trigger word.
The turnover is really bad in the league for the league. I get that in some, like, it's kind of funny because at the end of 2019 we're like, okay, there are probably some vets we can like move on from the league, and then instead we're like, let's throw everybody out, and then this year we're continuing that trend. And I wonder if we've sort of, it reminds me a lot of, in like 2016 or something like that, I did a video, maybe 2015, about how salaries needed to be public because players were getting screwed and underpaid, and then we swung wildly over the next couple of years in the opposite direction, where like players have probably been overpaid relative to the revenue that the league generates. And I see that kind of here too, where like maybe it's time for some teams to like commit a little longer for some of these players, because I don't know, even just from a brand building. So I think it's not. I think some of this is good. I think we're probably a little overboard now in terms of the player turnover.
Well, thank you guys. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Can I shout out my startup? Is that cool?
Sure.
On Twitter. It's at Party Around on Twitter.
Damning.
But yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for the churn.
Yeah, have a good one. See ya.
Yep.
What was it? I didn't hear what he
I
said.
said thanks for the churn. I think he was making a joke about trying
Oh.
to get you to be weird. Okay. Beans or Rice 33, thank you for the Prime. Truth Loop, thank you for the Prime. Sinister Shadow, Tier 1, thanks so much. Thank you, everyone, for all the subs. Very appreciated. All right, Beorn is here. Beorn, is that how you say your name?
It's Beorn. It's the Lord of the Rings, the little bear. Dude.
Oh, nice. Okay, Beorn.
Yeah.
Where are you calling from?
Yeah. Alabama.
Alabama. You sounded reluctant to say that whenever I asked.
Well, I actually was living in LA last year and then moved back because of COVID. So yeah, it's kind of been a moving back and forth across the country.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Okay.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
So basically, in short, I think C9 is basically, I think C9 basically lost the offseason.
Oh boy.
It's not real.
I don't summon Jack into my chat to scream at me for my reporting last night.
Someone let Jack know that he lost the offseason. We're talking about it.
Well, here's the thing. It has nothing to do with Fudge. I think Fudge is fine. Like, Fudge is cool. I think it's the fact that Blabber is the most overrated player, like, in LCS history.
Not the direction I was expecting this to go. Okay, continue.
I think he hard skill caps your team. Like, super hard. I think spring of this year was the best possible meta for Blabber. I think this dude basically brain dead farms, AFKs and keyboard, and then is basically brain dead past 10 minutes. And yeah, I just think that basically this guy legitimately after 10 minutes would be like maybe top 6 LCS junglers. I think there are 6 people better than him past 10 minutes.
How do you feel whenever he gets MVP trophies?
Well, I think he had good splits, but I'm just telling you, I think these past couple splits, he's been the most overrated thing. And I think it's funny that he always sucks in summer.
So when you looked at, so just to be clear, when you looked at C9 heading into the offseason, you were like, I hope the one move that they make more than any other is replacing Blabber?
No, I think that if you go, like, I think if you had gone like Fudge top, Sven, Vulcan. Is Sven in an AC, by the way? I was wondering about that. Has Sven gotten his green card yet?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, so Sven. I thought.
Oh, have you heard something else, Mark?
No. Sorry, I was.
Sorry, continue,
okay.
caller. Yeah.
No, okay. Well, I think Summit is fantastic. I think Summit's amazing. I think Fudge can be really good. I think I know Vulcan didn't have a great Worlds, but I think hitching your wagon to Vulcan would be better than Blabber. That's the long story short. He said to keep it quick.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. I mean, I agree. So, you can't come in and say Blabber's overrated, and then like that is one that's hard to keep quick. Okay. I think most people would agree with you on the Vulcan stuff. I know there's a ton of C9 fans that are sad that Vulcan is leaving. Fine, Mark, just go.
Dude, he said he doesn't. He's just AFK farms. He has multiple splits of the highest kills and assists at 15 in the league. He sets records with his pro activity. How can you say AFK farms? We gotta start there.
I think literally, like when I watch this dude play, almost every I think when I watch him play, like let's say, like honestly, let's watch him play Spica. Okay, I think there's a certain point in the game he's farming, he's doing his thing, and then there's always a certain point. Or when I watched him play against Tarzan this year. He always farms, and then like there comes a certain point in the game where it's like you either go to the Rift Herald, you go do your objective, you go do your thing. Long story short, this guy, well, instead of doing that, instead of grouping well his team when he needs to, he just keeps farming. And at the end of every single game, he leaves you in the spot where you're like, well, dude was ahead in CS, dude had good numbers, but like he never does anything past 10 minutes.
Okay, but Mark is okay. Go Mark.
He lost to Tarzan.
No, I'm just saying that's what I was just trying to give an example really quickly.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, yeah, I admit Blabber's had bad moments in international play. I got news for you. That's true for every North American player in a lot of instances. Yeah, no. he might have had a sharper drop off, and he's into some games and it has some issues. But like in spring this year, he was again setting records for proactivity and like how hard he dominates the early games.
What was the meta? What was the meta in spring? Please tell me the 4 champions were played every single game. It was Udyr, Braindead Farm, Olaf, Braindead Farm, Heckram, Brain Dead Farm, and what was the other jungler?
Talia. And
His
Zin.
Lee is really
and he
good.
pops up on Zin and Lee.
No, he does not pop off in Zen and Lee. I'll call
Hey,
BS on that.
Zin
I
and
will
Lee
call
games
BS on
in
that.
playoffs.
I will call BS on Zen and Lee. He is good on Brain Dead Farm Champions. I mean, there's no way I can do
He
this.
has a style that he's best at, like every player.
He goes full clear into a gank on timing, and then it's like if it comes down to a choice of like,
You
all
need
right,
to
do I
watch
help-
his games if you think when he plays when this AFK farming meta was a thing, which everyone was talking about, and when they roasted me for putting closer down lower, and they
Closer's
he
better
still
than him,
made
by the way,
more
just saying.
plays than anyone else in the entire game when you're talking about these AFK farmers, because he actually knows how to convert plays, and he does it very successfully with coordinating through other
I
players,
feel like-
getting in the enemy team's face. When he dookied all over Xerxes for invading him, like he actually plays extremely
Beating
well.
Xerxes is not an achievement.
Okay, here.
But
Yeah,
I just
Beorn.
in NA, baby. What's your like? Where you
Well-
like? He lost to Tarzan. He lost to these other
Well,
like.
time out. When I say capped, like, I also think that like the bottom 5 of NA is so bad. Like C9 is gonna be 4th or 3rd. Like that's the worst they're gonna be because these other rosters are so bad. Like, the worst you're gonna do in NA is top 4. Because of how
Beorn,
bad these other teams are.
Beorn, here I'm going to give you your final bit here on the blabber stuff, and then I'm going to ask you for your shout outs, and we'll move on. Just because we're low on time, but
You're good. No,
have
it's
any final
I
bits here?
still think that Blabber plays with 4 better players than everybody else. I think that past 10 minutes he has no clue how to play the game. And yeah, I think that he'll keep farming and he always can look good. And yeah, I think we've already seen the best of Blabber, and I think C9 should have prioritized Vulcan over him. That's it.
Very good. I love you have the Twitch chat is between people that are like, let this guy keep talking, and then he's actually entertaining, and then other people that are just like, hang up, get him off the show. You've definitely
Easily.
Yeah, you've definitely
it's okay.
made the chat have strong opinions. Anyway, anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Nah, bro, you're good.
Okay.
You have a great day.
You have a great day too,
This is
Beorn.
fun. This is the most fun I had in a minute tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for the call. Okay. Risen King, thank you for the Prime. Araxis, thank you for the Prime. Daddy, please spank me. Thank you for the 12 months of spanking. Shadow Beam 2, thank you as well for the sub. Oh, we just started a scam train. Okay, Mark is grabbing the last caller. Not the last caller. We got a couple more callers. Wooden Post is here. Wooden Post, where are you calling from?
Be right back.
Calling from Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston, Massachusetts. Mark's area of the world. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so I'm here to basically, I guess my take is to the exact opposite of the previous caller, and to say that his take is absolute dog shit.
Oh.
And I think that C9 fans have the most short-term memory possible when it comes to roster changes. It's like Dory, where the memory just resets every year and you just forget the previous year. And I think that Jack has done such a great job over the past decade. And I just can't think of a roster for a C9 roster that they fielded within the entire existence of the org that hasn't at least competed or semi-competed for the top. They've made worlds all but one of the years they've been involved. They're always vying for the top 3 spots in finals. And so I think C9 fans just need to chill out and trust Jack and trust the process and him and his staff.
Is Jack paying you for this? Because I did notice you used his talking notes from the interaction he had with Tim earlier in terms of the decade note.
Yeah, definitely. He's in my PayPal right now. I just didn't want to say.
Nice. Okay, well, hey, I will somewhat agree with you. I say somewhat in, I can understand why LCS fans, C9 fans, are like, oh, so we had Perks last year, that was our big off-season move, and then now, for instance, we're moving Fudge to the mid lane, and like I can understand why there is skepticism, but I just refuse to ever count C9 out, because I don't think that even when, I mean, Jack memes it. Like that's why I'm a little sad that he on Twitter is like frustrated at people talking about how he lost the offseason, because he there's some antics going on in Mark's background.
There's a ghost.
Yeah, there's a spooky ghost in the background.
Oh no.
Because they Cloud9, even when people think they lost the offseason, they always do well. And he has brought in rosters and sold off contracts of players that people loved, and then lo and behold, they've made it to fucking Worlds with like Zazel and shit, like roster changes they're making last minute, and they're doing these miracle runs, and
even what was it, spring 26 or summer 2016? I can't remember. That was like the split that they blew up their original roster, the original 5.
Yeah,
I think Jensen was a part of the team at that point. But that was like when they dumped balls and Lemonation and started bringing in Smoothie, Bunny Fufu, and Impact, and like that was like, oh my god, it's over. It's the end. This is the end, and they made quarterfinals that year.
Yeah, I think that C9 Ghost confirmed, says Twitch chat from the Mark background. I think that it is it's very true. I am never going to place C9 out of the top 5, and quite frankly, the vast majority of the time, I'm going to place them in the top 3. I think we need to learn a little bit more about what the other rosters look like, but there's a good chance they're there this year, or maybe competing with EG for the 3rd spot. So, I don't know. I can't. It is sad to me that C9 fans didn't have more faith. I am not surprised that they are frustrated by what seems to be a very different roster and very different situation than last year. I think LCS fans have taught themselves that they should just expect Faker and Chovy signings every offseason.
Yes,
but
exactly.
This is I don't think that they are just inting with their lineup. Mark?
Yeah, I think I understand where the feeling comes from for fans, because you lose Perks, okay, that doesn't feel great, and then you probably lose Vulcan, Fudge swaps mid, a lot of that stuff is not an emotional reaction. Even if you step back and you acknowledge all the great things Jack did, it's hard to feel good about those moves. Summit coming in is obviously a dub. But beyond that, also the fact that there were so many rumors about Sven leaving and then staying, you kind of wonder what happened there. Did the org not want him and then decided to keep him?
I think they were going to keep Vulcan and transfer Sven, and then something changed where it swapped that. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of off-season rumors that have gone around with them, and movements that, as a fan, you just don't feel great about. You can say, I'll have my faith in Jack, and still not feel good. And I think both those things can happen. So I totally get why fans are pessimistic or not feeling great, but I ultimately agree with Wooden Post's take that, you guys got to remember that, you haven't really been led astray too often before.
Yeah, and just to kind of as a final nail on the coffin, I think it's totally fine for fans to be critical and to be skeptical, but I think the amount of skepticism and hate that comes towards Jack, especially this year, is a little unwarranted when he's definitely seemed like he's earned a little bit of faith.
Well, I will say this too, and I know it is incredibly ironic since 24 hours ago I was putting out this roster, but it does seem like something has changed in the past 24 hours. And again, I continue to be I know people will meme me whenever the C9 roster changes or whatever, but I continue to be very confident that was a plan last night. But it does seem as though something has changed in the past 24 hours, because C9 and Jack have been doing a bunch of work to try to make people, expect that the 5 players that I reported are not it. And so I don't think I would be surprised if they were going through all this if there was not some last minute changes that are happening. So I think C9 fans should chill for a bit. And if they are indicating that there are things that are changing behind the scenes, maybe wait and see what those changes are. Wooden Post, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
Shout out to Jack, trust you. Shout out to Alienware. Thank you for the monitors sitting on my desk.
Bring it. Love to hear it.
Before you go, quick question. What would be losing the offseason for you? Missing Worlds, out of the top 5?
I think it would have to be missing. I would honestly say missing playoffs. I think that would be okay, we severely messed up, because we've had years where Cloud9 even made 6th place and bottom of playoffs, and they'll still somehow compete towards the top.
You mean spring playoffs, right? Because summer playoffs is top 8.
No. Yeah, spring. I'm talking spring. For summer, I'd say when we start to miss Worlds, that's when I'd be okay, not only was there a problem, you couldn't even correct the problem.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Thanks much for the call.
That's where your fans' line is.
Thanks,
I
guys.
think I hope Jack is sipping a beer somewhere right now and not watching the show. Thanks so much, Wooden, for the call. All right, we're gonna take a quick break to talk about our second sponsor of the evening, Game Fuel. Today, no joke, my day has been powered by Game Fuel. I drank one of these earlier today when I started the stream. I'm drinking one now while we're doing Hotline League. I definitely felt like I needed something to help. Mark is drinking one right now. He's not drinking it. He's demonstrating that he emptied out the bottle by cutting his hand on the. Are you okay, Mark? Anyway, I started to have some issues before don't normally do these long streams, and then Hotline League was rolling around, and I popped one of these things, and I guess Mark and I also screamed at each other at the start of the show, so that helped get the energy levels going. But anyway, it is fantastic to have Game Fuel on as a partner. You know, I've got this beautiful Game Fuel fridge behind me for those that are watching the VOD. And Mark comes over, he just raids it, and he tries to take the sherbet flavors, of which there are now no longer any sherbet flavors. And I gave him one time, and I kept the rest for myself. Anyway, thank you so much to Gamefuel. Gamefuel.com/Travis. Use code Travis to save on your order. And thank you, Gamefuel, for powering my free agency day, as I have needed the energy to get through it. It's been a long day. Mark is off to grab the next caller as we're going. Crowned Cowboy, thank you for the Prime. SkyG, Shadowbeam, Matty Ice, thank you for the Prime. Thanks everyone who's subbing. Very much appreciated. If you have a Prime, in fact, an easy way to find it if you have a Prime, you can just hover over the stream. There might be a purple crown that pops up on the side, a little widget. I'll let you know if you have a sub available for the channel. That would be super cool. Large Spud wants to know how you call. If you guys ever need to know how to call, type in ! Instructions into the chat, and also ! Discord. Nate is here. Nate, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I think that Rekkles is doing the smart move of going to KCorp, and I think other players should do that as well if they want to succeed long term.
Oh, okay. I'm very interested. So, one, who knows what he doesn't have complete agency over his situation. But let's assume that this was a decision he made. Why is this the smart move?
I think that he could have easily went down the streaming route based off of what his rumored salary is, and he could have easily made that within a year. But I think if he wants to get back into the competitive scene of LEC or LCS, that if he played down in Masters and showed orgs that he can still play and play around players that are not refined, that it's a better part of his resume than just streaming for a split or a season and then just hoping to get back on a team.
Okay. I think this is interesting. So if I understand your take correctly, this is specifically more for players who wind up teamless, and especially the superstar players.
Yeah.
You're saying they should go compete in amateur/academy and show they still got the goods rather than take this spring off and stream or whatever. Because for Rekkles, it sounds like he wasn't really going to be allowed on many of the LEC teams he wants to be on. And this at least shows that he's still at least playing professionally.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for Jizuke, Nisqy, and Broxa examples to go and play there for a split, and then play there for a split or a season, and then use that as a resume booster to try to get on a team that they would like to. And I think if you look at someone like Nemesis, who said he didn't have a team, it seems like he was looking for a team, but he was just streaming. But if he was playing on a Masters level team and amateur for EU, then that would have given him a better shot, since there are 3 players just in mid lane that are going to be playing in the LEC or LCS based off of what happened today.
So expanding this out, Nate, do you think that somebody like Jensen should go play on an academy team this spring if he doesn't have a spot?
I think it would be more beneficial to go to play an academy within EU to try to get on a Masters team than academy in NA, because it's more developed in Europe and there's a lot more results there than what's happening in NA.
That's an interesting
idea. You could even make
idea.
the case that the solo queue is better there as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I respect if a player went to Korea, for example, to train up, but I think the ultimate premise is that okay, this offseason sucked ass for whatever reason, is kind of a case-by-case basis for each of them. But if your number one goal is seriously competing, you try and find the highest level of competition available to you and dominate it rather than necessarily just wait on the sidelines for an opportunity to open up. I can understand that.
Yeah, like I think if Rekkles goes there and dominates, then that helps his resume, but it's a double-edged sword because if he goes there and gets dumpstered, no team's going to want him, but at that point, he doesn't deserve to be on an LEC team because he got dumpstered by players in amateur leagues.
You would even make the case that a lot of these guys don't need resume boosters. Like, I don't think there's any amount of domination they could show in these leagues that's actually good for them. In some sense, it's only a negative from a public perception. Because, like, let's say Jensen goes and competes in Academy. You expect him to 1v9, even if that's not really fair.
Yeah.
But I would still say for the player, it still keeps them in the most game-ready form. And it is a risk-reward they have to weigh in their head. Like, okay, if I go play an Academy or one of these ERLs, people are going to think I'm going to shit on them. And then if I don't, it looks bad for me, yada, yada, yada. But at the very least, you'll still be getting better practice than solo queue in North America.
I think one downside, though, to this is that if you are in North America, if you are in Academy or you're sitting on the sidelines, you're ready to go whenever. Like, we've seen this a ton for, like, players like Pobelter and Demonte or whatever, where, like, it might not even get to summer before people are hitting them up. You know, if it's, like, March and a team is just sucking, they might be looking to make a change, and then it's like, oh, that guy lives down the street and could come into our facility and start playing tomorrow, so let's like get the deal done, you know. And I think it's a little bit more difficult if you're like wrapped up in some sort of ERL team living in who knows
You
what.
could do some sort of flexible contract, but
with that, like, look where Demonte and Pobelter are. They don't have a team. For a lot of orgs, they just seem like they're a Band-Aid fix and not long-term. But if someone goes and plays in Academy or EU Masters and shows that they have long-term, they can show that they have long-term success. Because I don't think Demonte and Pobelter are ever going to find a team for more than a season now because they're just viewed as a short-term fix.
Kelsey's calling us all idiots in the chat. She says, this is objectively just wrong. Streaming and brand value will get you way more offers than playing in ERL or Academy.
How many people are coming from streaming to play in an upcoming season? I think right now the number of players coming from Masters is more than players from streaming. Like Nemesis and Doublelift don't have a team, but they were streamers. But I know that Doublelift retired, so
yeah, Kelsey,
he's kind of a different fix.
Yeah, he was also there were like two or three teams that he could have landed on. Yeah, Kelsey, why is Tyler 1 not in the LCS if streaming is such a great opportunity?
All right, shut up. This is an interesting topic. We can't waste it with jokes. I think the other thing to say about that is the thing for me is not brand value. So I disagree with Nate a little bit on the idea of brand value because, like I said, I actually think it's mostly risk from a brand value perspective. But from a practice perspective, it's unquestionable in my mind that like playing in the LFL and playing in EUS is going to be better than sitting on the sidelines in terms of like long-term, like how ready you're going to be as a skill level. From a brand point, I totally understand and agree with you. But I can't imagine that you're going to feel better after, you're going to have rust to scrape off after playing 3 months at NA solo queue day in, day out.
I mean, the counterpoint I think to Kelsey is like I can't. Maybe I'm an idiot, but I can't think of too many players who went to go stream, and then like they came like Sneaky went to go stream for a year, didn't come back. We've seen
Nemesis,
who's the other person?
Doublelift.
Yeah. There's like a ton of these
Doublelift
players.
Technically came back a couple times.
Biofrost, like there's a lot of players who have been streaming and don't have positions on teams whenever they wanted to. So I am a little worried. So for me, Medios. For me, I'm a little worried that like if I was a player, I'd be more worried about streaming signaling the end of my career than going to Academy and coming back up. Whereas you have players like Contracts and others that have bounced back a lot faster from Academy than from streaming.
Do you think there are any players right now that don't have teams that would benefit from the Academy route for either NA or EU to make a team? I think I think that's something that Jensen and Nisqy should do to show that they can still play at a competitive level and get an org to sign them.
I mean, I'm probably going to make a video about this, and I know it's probably not going to happen. And maybe I mentioned this last week, but I would love to see a double lift Jensen, Hanser, Svenskeren, Biofrost amateur team show up and just like slaughter people next year.
How
and then
would it be to stream the scrims too?
That's what I was going to say. They stream the scrim. I told this to Peter. They stream the scrims. They convince Riot to let them stream their own games from like their perspective, and like Riot has to do that, right? Like if you go to Riot and you say we'll compete in your leagues that nobody cares about and make people care about them as long as you give us the ability to stream our own perspective, like I definitely think Riot would do that, and they'd be silly if they didn't. So I think that would be a brilliant guys. Like you guys are all spamming Delta Fox. Like I think this is a bit of a different situation than Delta Fox personally. These are not a bunch of people who have all retired. They're people that are trying to get back in and are just like, they can go cut heads off of people in academy.
He says
amateur.
The goal isn't necessarily to compete at all costs. I think that's true for Doublelift and Sneaky and some of those guys. Nisqy, I don't know how true it is versus like I don't think anyone wants to not play on a good team. And that's part of the reason some of them are not playing right now is not actually just buyout stuff, but probably teammates and quality of the teams they're joining. But
yeah, and I don't think Jensen is like, oh yeah, I'm going to stream if I can't. Like, I think he wants to play. Like, there's a lot of players I think want to play. So I don't know. I don't think not everybody wants to be a streamer.
I think that goes back to the point of I think Rekkles is doing the smart move of doing that to show that he's still at a competitive level, and he already has the brand value behind him. Like they're going to get so many viewers now just to watch him play. But that's why I think he's doing the smart move of staying at a competitive level to show these organizations that he can be the carry for a team still and be the face of the organization even after having a recency bias slump because G2 didn't make it to Worlds and he was the 80 carry for their team.
People say no one...
Oh,
good.
Final point is that the LFL is also big. Like, I don't think he needs to prove anything to LEC teams. I feel like most teams would give him a chance if he wasn't in some sort of contract situation that was problematic. But the LFL team is giving him decent money. The LFL is decently competitive, and it actually has a big fan base. Like, they get hundreds of thousands of viewers for their finals. So, like, it's really hits a lot of the points that would matter for someone like him, I think, as well as being, like, decently competitive.
I think some of these players can go to the LFL and still do that to show that they can play at a competitive level. But it just seems like for some players that if they don't get on an LEC or an LCS team, then they should just go stream for a season or something and then try to wait for the next split to see if something can happen.
All right. The real final point, by the way, is that earlier somebody, Darn Rabbit in the chat said, no one doubts they can play at that level. Did you see Jensen at Worlds? The thing that is scary is, right now, nobody doubts that they can play at this level. But if I was one of these players, I'd be really worried because I think a year is a long time in competitive League of Legends. And maybe nobody doubts you can play at this level now. But if they don't land somewhere in the summer, I cannot think of too many instances where a player took a whole year off, didn't play competitively that entire time, and then came back. Are there any examples? Does anybody know?
Are, but I think Bjergsen, yeah,
Bjerg, but even like I don't know, he was still involved in an LCS team. Yeah, Forgiven is the one that people are mentioning, and I guess Ole.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think there are probably examples of it, but it just I don't think it increases. I don't think it increases your odds because you're still going to come back with the same mindset if you want to be on a top 3 team. But those top 3 teams are going to be looking at players who looked really good the last year. From Europe or NA, like the pool is still going to be the pool. You're still competing against the same pool in some sense.
Nate,
spots.
Thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Shout out Game Fuel and shout out Travis and Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much for coming on. Catch you next time.
Bye.
All right. Off grabbing the next caller. Thank you to Lexicon, Bankshot, and Zabadoo for all of your subs. Very much appreciated. People just in the chat asking me about which players teams are TSM's going to sign. Come on. Red Panda is
It's
here.
Joby.
Red Panda, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Greenwood, Indiana.
Greenwood, Indiana. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I wanted to talk about, and I want to preface before I say this, I think Ellis is super smart, but I just don't think he would be the right fit for coaching Cloud9 or almost any NA team I could think. Specifically just because I remember a couple clips of him saying that he wouldn't want to coach a team that he didn't 100% believes would win Worlds when he was talking about not 100 Thieves, the T1 situation. And also just like the way he kind of thinks of the game is kind of like, it's not dumb, it's just really unorthodox from what we would actually see. Like if you watch his coach streams, like how hypercritical he can be of certain things.
Ellis, friend of the show, was on last week. Mark?
I think it's an interesting take because he's someone who is a lightning rod in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to pull this one, because I actually was going to ask if you could do a Twitch poll about like 4 C9 fans, or maybe you need 3 options, but you're excited for LS to be your coach, you're not excited for LS to be your coach, or you are not a C9 fan, you don't give a shit. You know,
I mean, I think
whatever.
it's tough because I suspect a lot of non-C9 fans will, not the majority, but I'll try it.
We don't care about accurate reporting here. What the hell? Just do a poll so I can react to it.
Oh,
All right?
Mark. C9 fans, do you want LS? Do you want Coach LS?
Can you write without typing so I can
not an
so
LS
I can keep
fan,
rambling?
or not a C9 fan? Mark made me do this. Get me out. Okay.
Stop typing out loud.
Poll is you asked for the poll. You fucking got the poll and everything that goes along with it, Mark. All right, continue on.
Anyway, so for RedPanda's point, like, you know, we've seen that LS has a very strong opinion on parts of the game and how they should be played and stuff like that. And I think it at least makes it interesting no matter where he goes if he ends up the coach for them, because you just want to see his ideologies put into practice and see what they can do. So almost no matter whether he's a good fit or not, I want to see him coach Cloud9 or whoever. You know, last year when the T1 rumors were milling around, I was really excited for that. And given that you talked about RedPanda, his strong opinions on the game, I actually think this is a very receptive team to it, in the sense that Max Waldo and him and Fudge are all similar mindsets. It feels like they get along well. And so I think that they would be more willing, it'd be like less of an argument to win people over to that thought process. You know, I think that's a big reason it would potentially work in this situation. I think your points about his opinion on NA players, if they're brain dead or not, or, you know, only wanting to work with teams that have a chance of winning Worlds. You know, I think I don't hold that too much against anyone, because people's opinions change. Players say they only want to play with this person and they play with someone else, and coaches say they only want to do this and they coach other people. So yeah, Vigar V2 as well. So, you know, I think this is an environment that he would have a lot of control and support over to do what he wants. So that's why I am super excited about it, though I think it's gonna, like any coaching opportunity is a challenge.
So there's some people that are saying like there's no way he'd leave Korea. I could definitely see LS being part of the coaching staff from Korea. This is not like rumors or anything that I've heard. I just want to say, like, I don't think that is necessarily like I think he has worked with Fudge remotely. There might be a point in time where like he's doing so much to work with C9 that it makes sense to bring him on as a coach or something. I don't know. That might be where those rumors are coming from.
I mean, Vigard does it remote. Their SG, he does it remote, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
He doesn't go to the facility.
Vagar, by the way.
I think so. Vigard, yeah, Vagar.
Vagar, yeah.
He lived in Europe last year still. But I could be wrong. Who knows?
LCS tweeted IMTPOE. Sorry, I was just very distracting if LCS is now tweeting out stuff.
Wait, the LCS Twitter account?
Yeah, that's why somebody said that in chat.
Someone didn't hop off their burn.
Oh, they did? No. Yeah, LCS tweeted Immortals have found their mid laner for the upcoming LCS split.
LCS is reporters now. All right,
Does Immortals have a... Did they tweet this and then did the LCS account just like pull it? Oh, yeah. No, they tweeted it. Immortals did. Okay, well. You know what's interesting, by the way? Hang on. Just a quick aside. Fucking everybody has to tweet. Everybody has to tweet pending riot approval. You know who didn't fucking tweet pending riot approval? The LCS account. I think that if every team has to tweet pending riot approval before on every like signing, like the LCS account should have to also tweet pending riot approval. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
This is them not doing. This is approved already.
They've approved it. I mean, that's how it reads. But like that would have meant that it got approved in the 6 minutes between Immortals tweeting it and LCS tweeting it, or however long it was. It was not that long. I think it's. I don't know. I think it's actually hilarious. Sorry. Okay,
Anyways,
continue.
One thing I'll say that one of the things he tweeted when the Cloud9 news broke last night was he was talking about how League is a language and Summit should integrate okay. And this is one of the times where I'm somewhat in the middle. League is a language, and in the moment, you know, like people can communicate very easily what they're going to do or what they generally want to do. And I don't know what Summit's English level is like, but he would be the only Korean speaking player and staff member around outside of like a translator, or if anyone's bilingual that I'm not aware of. I mean, you know, obviously LS can speak Korean, but oh, Rainover's still there. Okay, yeah, so never mind. There's a little bit more there. Okay, good. So I will still say that like working with Korean players myself, like in game, you won't really have an issue. You know, like dive next wave, hit the CS, go if he steps forward. Like, you know, like the communication generally works, and you kind of find your own ways to make it happen. But there's still times where the nuances of the game can need more back and forth, and it's the back and forth that can become an issue. So like, I think that's one of the parts of this signing for him, that he's the only Korean speaker in the game. If someone goes like, hey, you know, do we want to put our Jace still against the Gnar, or should we put it against the Syndra in the side lane? You know, you start talking about like your lane assignments and stuff like that. So Sven does not speak Korean as far as I'm aware.
I highly doubt it.
Ignore Twitch chat. These guys are goofy.
I think they're trolling me. But you know, like once you start getting to those conversations where you need to like actually plan the next step, it can be difficult. And I know like for Piglet, there were definitely times where he had opinions that either he couldn't communicate 100% clearly, or you know, like the conversation he wanted to interject in but couldn't. And I think that those frustrations and that kind of stuff can definitely pick up. I mean, Ignar, it's Isles who's there, unless they're getting Ignar. Their supposed support is Isles. So I think that's one of the areas that is a potential concern for me, still with this roster as well. Because Fudge was really good about working with Blabber and getting kills in the top side. Like, I actually think they combo together usually quite well. And this would be a change of pace for Blabber as well, who, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but he's never had non-English speaking teammates.
He's never had non-English speaking teammates.
I think he might have played with Impact for like 1 year.
No,
when
he was on
still subbing.
No, he's been playing. His first ever top laner was Licorice.
Huh. Okay, so
he joined when Sven was on the team. He was in academy when Sven was on the team.
I knew it was Sven and him, but I didn't remember if Impact had gone yet. And Impact, to be fair, had good English, like people are saying in Twitch chat. You know, I just want to make it like clear that I don't think he's ever had to work with a player that he hasn't been able to communicate with fluently. So, Fudge speaks Korean too? Maybe. I don't know. At this point, I don't know.
They all speak Korean. Everyone, Jack will personally be translating as a Korean speaker himself. Just ignore Twitch chat. Those guys are goons.
They have Rosaria Stone up in the background.
Did you say Rosaria? You've been playing so much Genshin that you think Rosetta Stone is Rosaria Stone. Everybody
anyways.
check out Res and Refresh, the Genshin Impact show that Mark and I do, because clearly it's bleeding into Hotline League.
There's been a push from some of the top teams, TL not included, to make more single language teams. Like TSM for a long time had said, oh well, we would prefer European imports because we don't want to have to worry about communication barriers and stuff like that. And if you do get a Korean player, they have to be very fluent in English. And so We'll have to see what TSM does this offseason, but I feel like C9 had been that way for a while as well.
True. Okay. I haven't said too much on this, but I hope LS is their coach, because can you imagine what LCS viewership would look like every time C9 plays? Like, my God. Actually, if that happens, I feel like C9, no offense to LS, but obviously there's a lot of LS haters and a lot of LS lovers, and I feel like C9 would take the TSM cake for like the most love-hate fandom situation there. RedPanda.
Excited to just have him in NA then.
RedPanda, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our last caller?
The Game Fuel, that got me through college. 100%. I had cases of that everywhere.
Nice.
And I said this to Mark before, but Mark, for defending Blabber like that, I've had so many conversations with people about that kind of stuff. But that's it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, have a good one. All right. Our last caller is up. Thank you to Crayon295 for the Prime. And we got our last caller here. Is it Iscaf?
IceCaf.
IceCaf. Where are you calling from?
Washington, D.C.
IceCaf. Okay. Are you in the, are you a government employee?
I am not. Well,
okay.
I guess I am, yes. Never mind.
Okay. What's happening? What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is that 100 Thieves have essentially won this offseason, setting themselves up for great future success. And with the moves that they've made, they've cemented themselves into the top 3.
What is the... Go ahead.
And the 3 points that support that is the General Sniper pickup. I think that's absolutely massive. And kind of in the pickup video, he talked about seeing the success of Kempi and Tenacity, and that's part of why he joined 100 Thieves. And I think he's going to have a similar effect. Then most of their academy team getting promoted or sold to the LCS level is absolutely massive. And then the pickup of Mithy is also completely huge, and they probably have the strongest coaching staff of any LCS team.
I know you just named changes that they did actually make, but whenever you said it, I immediately went to go find this video of just Luigi wins by doing nothing. I don't know if you're familiar with this meme, because that was that's what I was thinking of whenever.
Oh no, get that off your screen, dude. Make that a meme already and fucking tweet it out. Someone needs to put on the logos over the characters.
Because obviously they did make the obviously they did make the Tenacity upgrade, but but if you do believe, or I don't know, side grade, whatever you want to say, they expanded, but they are the team that did very little in the offseason, and so it is kind of a funny thing that if you do think that they won, it's because I feel like they didn't do much in comparison to the other teams. But you did make a good point that they signed General Sniper. I mean, he's not going to be somebody who's going to come online for them for a couple years. But I am curious to see how Mithy works out. And what was the other one you mentioned? Oh, and obviously Tenacity.
So all their academy players showing any young talent, hey, if you want to get into the LCS, 100 Thieves is the pipeline to do it through.
Also, they picked up Mithy. I think you said that, but I want to make sure I didn't forget that. They're expanding their coaching staff, which is good. So, I mean, I largely agree with this. I think the more interesting point is, I think you mentioned it in your text. I don't know if you said it here, but like the ability to break into the top 3 of NA orgs in the future with this pipeline that they kind of have set up, the same way that for a period of time C9 is like this, where they have decent academy teams, and when it comes time to make a roster move, they have rookies that they have experience with that they're ready to bring up and make it happen. Like FBI for Luger, obviously FBI is a fucking stud, so like they moved Luger, but that pickup was super smart. Like you grabbed him from the TCL, you had some time with him, and if something happened, like, hey, Luger was ready to go. So I totally agree. I think all their pickups are really, really smart in the offseason for the academy players. And it doesn't make them necessarily stronger this individual season, but it cements them as potentially one of the best orgs moving forward.
I will say this, though. I'm sad that Kenvy's not playing, and I'm very curious to find out what if I could find out what his buyout was, because there were a lot of rumors that the buyout was fairly high, and I know a lot of people really wanted Kenvy to be in the LCS, so it would be a little disappointing if he was not priced at a point where, or his contract was not priced at a point where teams felt like it was accessible.
My prediction now is almost no matter what, Closer is going to be going next year, and Kenvy's going to take a step up because I think he's just too valuable of an asset to kind of let go the way that they would have to.
We'll see. We'll see. Iscaf, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we wrap up the show?
Shout out to Game Fuel and Alienware.
Thank you. That's very nice of you. Have a good evening.
You as well.
All right. Mark Zimmerman, what do you have for us? What do you want to shout out?
Shout out Rosaria Stone. Nothing. Give me out.
Shout out Resin Refresh, the Travis and Mark Zimmerman Genshin show. You can go check it out at TGI Genshin. There's still a lot coming to the channel this week. I did a discussion piece, a thought piece on the off-season off-season economy. I mentioned that earlier. That'll hit the channel at some point in time. There's some other stuff too, so just hold it down. Thanks for everyone who's been following along. Thanks to anybody who doesn't flame me if C9 makes a last-minute pivot on their support. And thank you to LS for hopefully not flaming me for mentioning that there's a rumor he's the LS coach, because I know that the last time he was in the C9 coach. Sorry, we're in hour 9 of the stream. Because the last time that stuff came out, it was a big drama monger situation. So hopefully there's less of that, and if that happens, I apologize in advance. Okay, thanks everyone. That is the show. Thank you, Alienware. Thank you, Game Fuel. Please listen to the show. Emily and I are going to record an episode of Rift Reaction tomorrow talking about this stuff. We'll see what I can get Emily to commit to about her opinions on all this. And this has been Hotline League. Bye.